Before we begin this video, if you guys would like my full penis enlargement course for free, where I show you exactly how I gained over an inch in length using stretching, make sure to check out baseems.com. All you have to do is put your name and email address and you can get my full penis enlargement course for free. Check out baseems.com now. As I know from your videos, you're talking quite a bit about how guys can stand out in sex, and you're saying that learning how to go down on a girl, how to eat pussy, is probably the easiest way for you to stand out and for the girl to be impressed by. There you go.
Soon.
There you go. Awesome.
Yeah.
Can you share any advices about eating pussy, something that guys can just implement?
Well, one of the things that I would say, and this is a really good way that guys need to start looking at it, okay, is they need to start looking at pussy eating through the lens of a vibrator. This is very key, right? So if we step back for a second and we say, okay, well, there is this little plastic device that is revered by women the world over. Who knows how many billions of those little plastic things have been sold, right? Yeah. So clearly the designers of them are onto something, right? Because women love their vibrators. Well, why? And so there are 3 principles of vibrators that I think guys need to apply in their pussy eating strategies, okay? Number 1, you go watch any woman with a vibrator, you know. They are not rubbing it on their side lips. They're not, doing all sort of asinine behaviors with it. They are stapling it to the clit. Okay?
That's true.
Not moving. Not trying to make the alphabet or some stupid shit that I read some people talk about. Oh my God, they are stapling it to the clit. Okay? It's never moving. Okay, so that's number 1. When you've made the decision, and so, I teach guys arousal strategies, and that's a whole different thing. But when we have made what I call the capital C commitment to create an orgasm, okay, which is we have now, that tongue has functionally touched the clit. We never deviate from it, ever. We are now in it to win it. And there's multiple reasons why we're going to do that, because women will also have their own version of the male 5-minute marker. And so that has to do with desensitization. So when we go to the clit, we stay on the clit, we never leave. So that's principle number 1, okay? Now, number 2, how do vibrators operate? Okay? If you were to watch a girl and she has her vibrator, is she putting it on the slowest setting known to man, and then the next minute putting it on jackrabbit mode, and then the next minute slowing it way back down again, and then some jack? No. She's not doing anything like that. Same. It is rhythmic and consistent in its power and application of power. So we have to take those same principles when we're talking about our tongue. Okay? It needs to be rhythmic and consistent in power and application of power. Right? So there's, I did a live training seminar in Colombia for a group of guys where I did a 2-day pussy eating seminar there. And, they watched me get this girl off, and they were all shocked when they watched it live to see how repetitive it was. Yeah. Well, once I knew my cadence, once I knew what I was doing, I'm repeating ad nauseum, and very quickly we have orgasm. I'm not doing any there's in my book, I have what I call the 10 commandments of the clit, and one of them is, I think it's commandment number 8, number 5, number 8, but it's don't be special, be consistent. Yeah. Right. There's a famous scene, if you ever remember it, from Raiders of the Lost Ark, first Indiana Jones movie. And, the bad guys have stolen his Maid Marian girl, right? And they're running all throughout Tunisia. And so he's chasing her down. And then he comes to this sort of open square, and there's this huge guy all dressed in black, ominous figure. And he's got this massive sword, and he starts doing all these crazy sword tricks, right? And what does Indiana Jones do? Pulls out his gun and shoots him. Right? Don't be special. Be consistent. Sometimes what is boring is the most effective. We don't need to be flashy. And this is what I'm bringing when I talk to guys about, for some reason they'll have these ideas in their head that I don't know who planted them there, but that they need to be creating the alphabet and they need to be doing all this stuff. It's like, no. You're totally messing up. Like, we need to stay with what we're doing. We need to stay rhythmic and consistent in our power, our application of power, and focus on that clit, and that is it. And then the last principle that we really need to understand that you're going to take from vibrators is, well, what is so special about the vibrator? It never stops, ever. That thing is the literal Terminator of pussies. Okay, it's like, you remember in the old Terminators movie, they're like he has no morals, he never stops, like he will not stop until you're dead. I mean, this is the same principle, right? It's like, unless that battery dies, it is never stopping. It's not getting tired. It's not complaining. It's not saying its tongue is sore. It's not saying its jaw is sore. It's not saying it needs a glass of water. Nothing, right?
Yeah.
And these are very important principles. And here's why. Because I relate this back to men and our experience. So if I were to take you for a second, I say, okay, you're with your girl, and she's giving you, this amazing blowjob, right? It's awesome. And she's got the hand stroke. She's got everything. She's building it up. And you're like, oh, man, I'm like a minute away from orgasm, right? And she's doing it. And then she's like, oh, she flusters, and she's got to go wipe her nose. And she's like, oh, I need a glass of water. It's like, you were so close. And now it's like starting from zero.
You lost it.
You lost it. Who knows if you get it back? Because maybe when she starts again, hand positioning is a little off. Mouth, right. It was good before, but now that one tooth, she's snagging it a little bit, which happens, right? Which happens. Yeah. So the thing is, the final principle is you can never stop, ever, right? No matter what. Hey, tongue is sore, suck it up. Jaw is cramping, suck it up. Whatever's going on, suck it up. Because if you are on the path and you have all the cues present and everything's working, if you were to stop even for 3 seconds, because orgasms come like waves in the ocean, and you're putting all this time and effort to build up this wave, and just 5 seconds is enough to send it back out to sea. And so now maybe you've spent 5-6 minutes working, trying to give this woman an orgasm, and it took 4 seconds to piss that last 5 minutes away. And that's it. The 4 seconds, that can be it. And the wave is gone. And again, well, can you get it back now? Has her clit started to desensitize? Now you could make it so that, you can't get it back, because in my experience, typically you're only going to get 2, maybe 3 runs at it, right? Like you're going to build up that wave. If you can't make it crash over the second time, you might get a second shot. By the time the third shot, you've probably desensitized her so much that it's probably not going to happen. Yeah. So you need to be effective first time out of the gate.
This is absolute gold, in my opinion. I don't know why a lot of guys miss this. As you said, probably just marketing and stuff. But I remember it's actually the same concept of what we as guys enjoy, right? Like we as guys, we don't need any of this fancy deep throating bullshit. We just want rhythm and consistency. We want a girl that stays at the same speed. When it feels good, just keep going until we orgasm. And to be honest, out of pretty much all the girls that I have been with, the one that I would say gave me the best blowjob was the one that would just go down and just keep the rhythm, keep the speed, do the exact same movement until I finish. And
Yep.
so, yeah, a lot of people tend to complicate it. They think they have to be super creative, going up and down, right and left, when all they have to do is just focus on the clit, keep the same speed and rhythm, and that's all they have to do.
Yeah, and you know, to your point, um, part of the problem also in society, because it's on both sides of the aisle, and I think guys, especially you know in today's society, will get a bad rap from women, right? Because
Mm,
women will say, "Oh, no guy knows how to eat pussy," but I can easily just stick it on the other side of the foot as well and say, "Well, very few women know how to give a blowjob
that's true.
because women get trained poorly." And here's what I mean
Yeah,
by that. It goes exactly to the point that you just emphasized. They'll try and be so creative, they'll do all this stuff that doesn't feel good. And they'll do it two reasons. But the main one is no guy has ever had the balls to tell him, "Hey,
totally.
that sucks." Because we're so afraid, most guys get so afraid that she's going to stop if I say something. So I'm just going to mouth shut, and I'm just happy she's sucking it, but she's doing a poor job of it. And then you have, because you know, from my experience working with men and sort of the informal polls that I've done, I would say close to about 60% of guys struggle with some version of premature ejaculation at times.
Right.
So if you are a guy that struggles with that, especially if you're a guy that really struggles with it, well, the woman gets a false sense of her skill sets because, well, if you're that sensitive, she could literally rake her teeth over it and you might have an orgasm, right? Doesn't mean she
Yeah,
has any good skill sets. It just means you're hypersensitive. So,
right.
those two reasons I think is why a lot of women out there actually aren't that skilled and they sort of have a, you know, inflated self sense of self, and they'll blame guys for being bad at something when they are actually no better. It's just guys will not tell them that they're not.
Yeah. Also, girls tend to learn from other girls that may or may not know what guys actually like,
Hmm.
especially following a lot of sex coaches. They give contradicting opinions, and it's not always the right thing. And what I would say, if girls are watching, for the two girls that are watching, ask your guy, what are you doing right and what does he prefer? And in this way, you can actually know if what you're doing is good or not. Because girls like feel like, as you said, they have to be creative, and they start sucking and it feels good, and all you want is for them to keep going. But then they take it out and they go to the side and licking the balls and I don't know what. And I'm like, but I was almost there. You don't have to do anything. So
And it's hyper frustrating, right?
yeah,
And this is why I'll tell guys like, look, you, because as guys, a lot of us have had that experience, and so I'll say, look, it's that same experience that if you get down there with the woman, and I'll explain this to women and they'll sort of get it too. Like, look, imagine if he just started sucking your clit and then he's going down to chew on some side lips and then he decides he's going to, you know, play with your asshole and then he's going up to your navel. Like at some point you're like, "Will you fucking lick my pussy?" Like, hey, it's like, well, what do you think's going on the other side when you're like going down the balls? You're doing like when you've made the capital C commitment, and that's why I emphasize the C, commit to getting your partner off. You need to stick with the basics. You need to be rhythmic, you need to be consistent, and you need to not stop. And then it's so easy. It becomes so easy to get your partner off. People overcomplicate things.